I know the NBA Finals are going on right now. What the helly? Well, we got to talk about Kevin Durant and the possible trade scenarios. Let's get to it. What's good, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of Wrong vs. Right. I'm your host, Jay. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe below and hit that button. Today we're talking about Kevin Durant and the Suns trying to find a trade that works for both parties involved. Now look, obviously we know the whole Kevin Durant experiment in Phoenix has been a total disaster. It's about time both these parties just moved on. So let's explore the top 5 trade scenarios and stay tuned because I'm going to tell you where I think he will eventually end up. So first, the Miami Heat. Now when we look at the Miami Heat, who do the Heat really have to offer that the Phoenix Suns would really want? It's got to be Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo. But are the Miami Heat going to give up Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo for 37-year-old Kevin Durant? I don't think so. So who else do they have to offer? Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier? That just does not move me, and I guarantee you it does not move the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, you add in some draft picks, but again, you're getting Kevin Durant most likely on a 1-year deal. And even if the Heat did get Kevin Durant, you have Tyler Hero, Kevin Durant, and Bam Adebayo as your top guys. You lose a big part of your team as well. Does that team really compete in the Eastern Conference when the East is getting that much better? I don't think so. Next, we got a way more interesting team, the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets have way more assets than the Miami Heat from a player perspective. You have guys like Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., Jason Tate, Cam Whitmore, Alperen Şengün. So when I look at some of these guys like Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, these guys aren't moving. But these other pieces, these are guys that can be moved. These are guys that are expendable. The number 1 trash talker in the league who can't really back it up. And you really need guys like Dillon Brooks and his salary to even up the trade. So if we look at a team like Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Alperen Şengün, that's a solid top 4 right there. Enough to win a championship? Probably not. But I think it's a better fit and a better trade scenario for both Kevin Durant and the Suns as opposed to the Miami Heat. So moving along to the next team, the San Antonio Spurs. Now the San Antonio Spurs are super interesting. They obviously have the number 2 pick, which is probably going to be Dylan Harper. They have guys like Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle, and pairing KD with Wembanyama, cinema. You probably have to throw in a guy like Harrison Barnes because of his contract. So any trade with Kevin Durant and the Spurs, I think the Spurs are going to have to include that 2nd overall pick, which is probably going to be Dylan Harper. They're not going to get away with the trade without giving that up. But if you have guys like Fox, Kevin Durant, you're able to keep Stephon Castle or Devin Vassell with Wembanyama, they automatically become one of the best teams in the West. I think you can stamp that right now. Next, we got the New York Knicks. So any trade with the Knicks is going to have to include probably Karl-Anthony Towns or Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby. Now, I cannot see the Knicks giving up a guy like OG Anunoby for a possible 1-year rental on Kevin Durant. I don't see that happening. I think it's way more likely that Mikal Bridges is involved in the trade and Mikal Bridges gets sent back to the Phoenix Suns. That would be salty. What if the Phoenix Suns would accept the trade for Karl-Anthony Towns? That would be wild. So you're talking a starting lineup of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Kevin Durant, and Mitchell Robinson. That is scary right there. So if the Knicks were able to pull off a trade like that, you probably have to put in some draft picks as well. I don't know if the Knicks have any more draft picks. Let me know in the comments below. But that starting lineup is scary. Only thing they'd be lacking is at the center position because you can't depend on Mitchell Robinson's health throughout the entire 82-game season. And then lastly, I think this is the trade that most people want to see, and I think it's the most interesting, honestly, is to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So quick thing with the Timberwolves, I believe that Julius Randle has a player option, so that he has to sort that out before the Timberwolves can make any trade involving Julius Randle. But any trade involving Kevin Durant to the Minnesota Timberwolves would have to involve either Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert. If the Suns could get a guy like Rudy Gobert, that would solve their center problem they've been having ever since DeAndre Ayton left. If they got Julius Randle, then they have another scorer at the power forward position. Obviously nowhere near as good as Kevin Durant, but he's still a solid piece. But on the Minnesota side, you're pairing Ant-Man with his idol, Kevin Durant. They obviously developed some chemistry on Team USA during the Olympics, but having those 2 guys together as an offensive force, that is a lot to contend with, and I think that makes a super interesting trade. So taking a step back, overall, I think the best trade scenario and the best situation for Kevin Durant out of these 5 teams would be the San Antonio Spurs. Why do I say that? I think that gives him the best chance to win a championship with De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Durant, and Wembanyama. That is just a scary lineup right there. You probably keep Stephen Castle or Devin Vassell, preferably Stephon Castle as a nice young piece, nice two-way player who can play the 3 position as well. But imagine that lineup right there. Obviously, it sounds good on paper. We'd have to actually see it in action. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Everybody can't be wrong. Everybody can't be right. I'm out.